und auch die Niederlande ist diesbezüglich schon deutlich weiter als andere Staaten. Einerseits was die Transportfahrräder, den Einsatz der Transportfahrräder angeht, andererseits aber auch was die sogenannten Low-Emission Zones angeht. Und es freut mich hier sehr, einen niederländischen Logistik-Experten hier jetzt begrüßen zu dürfen, Remco Hoogma. Er wird uns jetzt auf Englisch die Zero Emission Zones in the Netherlands vorstellen. Remco, please, it's your turn.
Dankeschön. Grüße aus Holland. Ich mache es in der Tat auf Englisch, weil ich mich darauf vorbereitet habe. Später in der Diskussion können wir auch Deutsch versuchen. Meine Folien sind hier. Okay. The Netherlands have started a policy to implement 30 to 40 zero-emission zones for city logistics. This is a target that was set in the National Climate Agreement in 2019. Together with all the stakeholders that were involved in those discussions, so both public and private stakeholders. On the private side, for instance, the National Association for Transport Companies, the Association of Municipalities, NGOs on environmental and transport side. Together, they decided that it would be a good idea to implement these zones. I will show the next slide what are the access rules, but on the right you'll see the current status. We're not at the number of 30 to 40 yet. Currently 27 cities have announced that they will implement such a zone in 2025 or 2026. And on the left, some examples to show the size of such zones, especially the Amsterdam and Rotterdam zone are very big. It's basically most of the space inside the city ring, the city motorway ring. It's smaller in some of the other cities, and in some cases it's merely the pedestrian zone. So it's diverse. The decision to implement such a zone is taken by the municipality, and they can do so because it's part of the traffic law. But it's the responsibility for the municipality to decide whether or not they want to implement such a zone. But if they do, they should do it all in the same way, with the same access rules and the same agreement to take enough time for the market parties to get prepared. So from the moment to decide that the decision is taken to implement the zone, it's the gentleman's agreement to wait 4 years until the actual implementation. I'm trying to go to the next slide, but it's not. Oh yeah, it is. Here you see that it's not a sudden start of the zone. This was the initial idea, but in the discussions with the stakeholders, it was clear that it would be very difficult for the companies to adapt within just a big bang theory approach. So it was decided to have a transition period. So existing diesel trucks can still be used in the first few years that the zones are in place. With a gradual change, the Euro emission standards will be applied. So the longer the time is progressing, the cleaner the trucks have to be. And in the end, everything should be zero emission, which is zero emission tailpipe, to be clear. Of course, there's a whole discussion about the origin of the electricity or hydrogen, but that's not part of this policy measure. It's applicable to all vans and all trucks. So whatever the application is, it's the measure is for all of the trucks and vans, with some exceptions. If there are, let's give the example of a mobile crane. Such vehicles will be possibly the latest to be available in a zero emission mode, and therefore they can be exempted until they become available. And also there are various waivers, such as the possibility to get a day waiver for up to 12 times a year, so that if you only get into the zone with your vehicle, if you don't get there very often, you're not forced to change your vehicle into a electric or hydrogen vehicle. Legislation is also being prepared to add taxis and touring cars to this policy. They may be part of the zones from 2027. And some cities also aim to extend the zones to passenger cars and/or motorcycles, but that has no legal ground yet, but maybe something for the years to come. Oh, sorry. Yes. Now, if we only change the existing vehicles to zero emission vehicles, we only achieve some goals, of course. We still have the lack of space, traffic congestion, the danger of heavy vehicles among pedestrians, etc. So it is expected that the setting of the zones will have more effects. Companies will rethink their operations when the zones are in place. Of course, one aim is to switch to zero emission vehicles, but it's also an aim that they switch to different types of vehicles like cargo, bikes, switch to new kinds of planning, including the use of city hubs or consolidation centers, and also switch to new cooperation models where transport companies may decide to give, or let's say sell, part of their transport to colleagues that, for instance, operate a hub. We already see a large increase in the number of initiatives in that field. Over 300 of such initiatives have been identified on the picture to the right, and we see a lot of new initiatives per year in different market segments. You'll see parcels, you see fresh goods, multi-client, retail like clothing and construction industry, service and maintenance, and multi-client for construction and consolidation hubs for large building projects, for instance. We see that so far it has been difficult to organize multi-client hubs. The initiatives that have been started by big firms to optimize their own operations have been more successful. But the entrepreneurs that are involved in those multi-client initiatives expect that the implementation of the zones will give them a push, because the market is more or less forced to rethink their operations and consider the use of these multi-client hubs. Interesting is also that the real estate sector is getting involved by offering locations for such hubs, and this might solve some of the problems that we've seen before, that it has been difficult to find good spots for setting up the hubs, which is one of the success factors to make these hubs operate. That was my short introduction. I will have a look at the questions in the chat later on, and I'll be part of the discussion later. Thank you.
Remco, thanks a lot. Das war wirklich ein großartiger Vortrag und ein guter Einblick in die Situation in den Niederlanden, und danke auch, dass Sie im Chat dann die Fragen noch weiter beantworten, denn wir haben jetzt noch einiges vor.